blinds. Don't worry, I'm gonna get the blinds.
Ja, Isaac is it.
And the orange thing.
The blinds have to be out for the blinds have to be down for the photo.
The chair is not in the middle.
Isaac, they're waiting 7 o'clock. People are waiting all over the
Isaac, I mean, we can't handle
I
this.
never thought I'd be able to say I got a haircut shorter than my friend Isaac Neward. My haircut is even shorter.
7 o'clock, they don't see, oh, maybe there's no class today. 7 o'clock.
You didn't start out with the same amount either.
I should put on these 2 days
Correct.
before. Should we start shooting it?
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
I have to start bringing the Starbucks again. Let's go. I forget.
Yeah,
Once we lost the momentum in the Starbucks, let's go. What is with you? Look at you. It's terrible.
Woo!
Woo! Just the two Shazai.
Not terrible. In the 8th month. Please. Please.
It's terrible. What's the man?
Rabbi, good morning, doctor. You see, somebody told me that when we baby, I said I need it down. So I'm working on it.
You killed the baby?
16?
What do? You killed the baby?
No, I do the balls.
Oh, you're doing the balls?
Yeah. It's
A nice, good, normal way to lose weight. The
That's
balls,
it.
a nice, normal, healthy, physiologic way.
Is it?
There's our great grandparents when they lost weight. That's how they lost
But
weight.
doctor, you understand what it does?
It works. I have no idea what it does.
Ah, when you hear, you'll understand.
Yeah, okay. Let
Well,
me
tell
It's
us.
on a diet also.
It's different.
Nachum. Go over here. Just all oil.
No, because if I'm saying it wrong,
I want to hear what the balls behind the ears do.
I do extend it through the radiance. And in the liver, there's a different position where it's for the spleen. And the stomach, clean, because it helps burn the fat. Instead of
It's
eating
unbelievable what they can get people to believe. It's just unbelievable what they can get people to believe.
It works, buddy.
Okay, is there a diet that goes with the balls?
Yes.
Oh, of course. What a coincidence. Yeah. What, are you drinking milk all day? Milk for 3 days? And
Someone told me he went, the
if you
evidence.
drank milk all day after 2 days, you'd want to touch nothing.
No, but I'm not hungry. I'm not hungry. So it does something.
You didn't die.
Hey, if it's working.
You can't have it both ways. You can't rub the
Shalom
belly and
Aleichem,
then
Shalom
not be
Aleichem.
happy with the results.
True.
Yeah,
That's what I'm guessing. Listen, I'm not
Can we move the shit a quarter to?
No, 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock.
Why?
Because that's 7 midnight.
Yeah, but
Good,
we
so
also
but
made
once again,
up
say.
45 minutes.
Nachum. What time?
7.
What time is it now?
Oh my God.
You let everybody out today.
Oh my God.
Dr. Michelle, it's our God, no?
Oh my Lord. Is that Moshe's dead land? Praise be Jesus.
Is that what I bring up to you? Is that?
My son loves hanging out with you.
I have two guys.
He loves hanging out with you. You think he gave an effort? She thought it was awesome. He loved it. He said he hung out with you afterward.
Yeah. We schmoozed a lot. Nice.
Abe Duray.
Good kid, you guys.
Well, now he's got a good role model.
It was worth coming this morning just for this. We'll keep going.
Dr. Lamb, you didn't hear Dr. Lamb on the rabbi's recording. He took a sabbatical for a while. Now he's back.
Why not a long range behavior?
His name is Laman and it's Grunishka Lemon.
It's not my Rabbi called. The Rabbi is
You Rabbi tell you?
I'm sorry about that.
Last night or so.
About the rabbi.
Shul nowadays is better than what you could.
The Mordechai, can you please scoop over this?
Once the Alberta Malum is finished, now we're Shmoyes for the jury. I think it's a fun. I have to get to work 10 days and I leave.
Oh yeah,
Moshe said, what else I hold to his word, 10 to 8, I'm up and I'm out of here.
Good luck with that.
No, it's fine, he can be in the middle of a word, but 10 to 8, I can't.
Really?
Lately, he hasn't even come close the last few weeks.
Why'd you tell me?
I left a few upstairs because I feel bad. Like you shouldn't have nothing upstairs.
We're closing it.
It's like old timers day here today.
Today?
Yeah, this morning.
It's like old timers day here today. I expect Joe DiMaggio to come out,
Yeah.
limping out onto the field.
Old Timers Day, yeah. Eating up cabs. Eating up cabs. I like to write. Where? He told me that. Oh, what? And you tell me Two have to come on a pizza. Straight. Then it's intersection. You go straight. Oh, so it's a mile downstairs? This guy did that? I have an extra, my friend. It's 16, but I know that
I'm debating. What was the consensus?
Michelle said that you like holding with the parties.
You're saying Rabbi was a little bit still in the
I was giving excuses. Look at. Und als man endigt man ja? Und als man endigt man ja? Okay, so we'll continue. Shalom says, hebt dan nach Amand. Steht allemal beim Anheb. Ashrei Chalkecha. Chadashim Labkarim Rabbi Munasacha. Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to continue the Maimer, which is V'hinei Anachnu Ma'almim, page 55. The first column, almost on the bottom. The line starts, Chuli, Ella, Shaidei Hala Azu, Nasa B'chinas Ilmim. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 lines from the bottom. The line starts, Chuli. See, Chavav, Ella, Shaidei. There's a period after ilmim, al derech ze yuven sheyesh gam ken ibur sheni. Since the beginning of Parsha Shmos is v'Yosef haya b'Mitzrayim, so Yosef is nachalta Mitzrayim. So we could still hold on to Yosef Abisala. So the Medrash says that ma'almim alumim, on one level it means binding sheaves, on another level it comes from the word muteness. Elaim is a mute. Ma'almim alumim, we were all basically practicing the avodah of muteness. V'hinei anachnu ma'almim alumim, or to say it simply, we were all being quiet together, we were all being silent together. What would that mean? So the Balatanya explained Barichis that the two interpretations, Ma'almim alumim al pi pshat and Ma'almim alumim al pi the Medrash, are not two separate interpretations. One is the oimek, one is the depth of the first one, which is really the function of Medrash, to bring out the oimek, the depth of the psukim. That the deeper concept of Ma'almim alumim is to bring together a world that's fragmented, which is the whole avodas habirurim, to be able to identify within each creature and every situation and every person their divinity, their godliness, their aspect of infinity, which first of all allows them to come back to their own source, but also allows them to come back to the larger unity, the achdus of Micham Yisrael Goy Echad Ba'aretz, as explained at length. And that process always requires silence, because whenever anyone goes up to their source, the ulul, as he puts it, when the ulul returns to the ilah, like the fetus in the womb of the mother, there is a sense of silence. Because dibur always requires a certain sense of assertion, of assertiveness, the assertiveness of the I, which is the yesh, which is when the ulul leaves the womb of the ilah. But when the ulul is in the womb of the ilah, absorbed in its source, as halacha puts it, aidi detarid lemivla loy palit, when you're absorbed, when you're involved in absorbing, you don't emit. So in that sense, in that state of bittul, of the dveikus in the ilah, there's no sense of dibur, because dibur is always you're becoming a mashpia, a communicator to somebody outside of you, to somebody different, to the zulus, which doesn't exist when the birurim are oila, in a state of ibur in their source. That's v'hinei anachnu ma'almim alumim. That was the main discussion. So he continues. V'al derech ze yuven sheyesh gam ken ibur sheni la'acher haleida k'ma shekasav be'etz chayim. In Eitz Chaim, which is the main, one of the main svarim of the Arizal, that was written by his student Reb Chaim Vital, he says there's ibur rishon and ibur sheni. Ibur rishon, of course, is first pregnancy, when the child is in the womb, the fetus is in the womb. But he says after birth, there's stages of development that are called ibur sheni, a second form of pregnancy. What does this mean? V'hainu b'shvil hamshachas moichen de gadlus tzarich lavei mitchile b'bchines habittel betachlis v'zeu ha'ibur sheni dahainu shala'acher shahayu loy moichen v'hayayachel ha'ashpriya l'zulasoi ata meskalel b'bchines ibur betachlis habittel v'nasa b'chines ilaim kanal k'dei shaydei bittel zeh yumshach loy achakach moichen de gadlus mein seif baruch. What does this mean? We said that a child, a fetus in the womb of its mother, the Gemara says, it's a chelik of the mother. It's not its own life. If you will detach it from its mother at this point prematurely, it can't even be viable. It often can't survive if it's too premature. Why? Because it doesn't have yet it's the mechanism to be able to function on its own. The chiddush of birth is, the miracle of birth is, that it emerges as an independent identity. In the womb, even in halach, it's called uber yerech imay. It's a thigh of the mother. It's part of the mother's body. And biologically that way, it's the mother's organism. She's working twice as hard. From the oxygen to the nutrients, from the exercise to the blood flow, all the aspects, it's the mother's oxygen, it's the mother's blood flow, it's the mother's nutrients and so forth. That's why she has to be careful, because what she's doing, it's not only she's doing, it's all the child as well. Uber yerechima. In other words, when you look at the uber, what do you see? It's part of the mother, it's an extension of the mother. The chiddush of birth is that there's a detachment, there's a sense of separateness. Not completely, because the baby is not mature yet, the baby still needs the mother, still has to nurse from the mother's milk, or a substitute of it. Then there are stages in development. There's a stage where the child is not eating anymore from the mother's, drinking the mother's milk anymore. The child can eat its own food, baby food, ultimately bread and other foods, etc. Ein hatinik, the Gemara says in Brachas, that ein hatinik, when the tinnik starts eating dagon, grain, so yedei licorice abba. There's different stages of developments. The Arizal calls it generally 3 stages: ibur, yenika, and moichen. Ibur is pregnancy, yenika is the state of nursing, and then there's moichen, a certain level of intelligence that grows where the baby can start talking, which usually coincides also with coming to an end of the stage of nursing, and now there's a deeper level of independence. Of course, still a child, still an infant, and even when it's eating on its own, it's not completely independent. Sometimes in the animal kingdom at this point they could be independent. Birds and fish already, when they're hatched, are often independent. Sometimes they're eating the corpses of their progenitors, like the salmon, Yeah, or their source. But with humans, it's not that way. When did mamash do you become independent as a human being? I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Before you get married.
There's different stages, so. Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes you realize you're your own person. So there's many stages in this. So the Arizal says, to get to the next stage of development, you need a new ibur. There's a certain form of a new pregnancy. Because whenever you're going into a whole new stage of maturity, of development, so you have to go back, the olul has to go back to the ilah, lose its identity, and it re-emerges in a new way, in a new fashion. That's called ibur sheni, the second pregnancy. Now this pregnancy is not physical, the child doesn't go back to the womb, but existentially, there's a concept of ibur sheni. Now this is interesting that Harizal says, this is the Balatanya quotes this, because in childhood development, psychologically there's so many interesting stages of how it separates from its mother and it goes back to its mother, and it is angry about separation and angry about connection. The whole libido relationships is a complex one. But this concept of ibur sheni is that there's a certain element of the ubar, the child, cleaving back to its source completely, in order to be able to experience a new level of independence. And here you see again what we spoke about a few days ago, the theory of attachment, that for every new level of detachment, you need a deeper level of attachment. For every new level of autonomy and independence, to get from ibur to yenika, which is nursing, but it's separate, because you're a separate person, you're viable. You need ibur, and then to get from yenika to moichen, which is a higher level of intelligence or maturity or development and more independence, you need a new ibur, a new sense that the alul can completely be one with the ilah, and then re-emerge with more strength to be able to develop this new state of moichen.
To be clear, so this is not an evolution, this is shedding everything that the child previously had and starting from scratch, so it's not really an evolution.
No, I wouldn't. The child doesn't shed everything and go back to, become an embryo, but it's what it has, but it has to recreate a new connection in the source, where in order to be able to experience the new moichen, which is called. And then that's how there's moichen, the cotton moichen. It always has moichen. That's why it says moichen the godless. Moichen means a higher form of moichen. because that's the klal, the ability to be able to emerge as a successful yesh, meaning as a successful entity, always depends on the quality of how much trust and how much connection there was with the Ilah. It's like we learned in the Maimon in the summer with the Talmud and the Rav, right? That when the Talmud wants to get, the Rav even wants to get a new idea, you have to go back to pregnancy. You can't continue speaking, because then you're just giving the information that you have. You really have to go back, so to speak, to childhood, where you become a Makabel, and by becoming a Makabel, you could become a new Mashpia on a higher level. It's always that way. Whenever you're going through a growth state to a whole new place, you're going to have to first go through a new stage of being a Makabel. And it's also true, we see it throughout a person's life. And it's not always a comfortable thing. Whenever a person is making a quantum leap from one state of consciousness to a new state of consciousness, you're not going to be able to remain intact. It's not going to be just incremental, today I'm this and now I have a new awareness. That's if it's a small little thing. But whenever it's a real transformation, there's first a certain bittul that's experienced, where the Alul must go back to the Ilah, go back to the drawing board, and there's a new birth. And pregnancy is not a simple thing, because you really disappear. You're not here anymore. But that's the only way for there to be a whole new child, because a child can't be born without pregnancy. So I have to go back to the Ilah, back to the source. Huh? I don't know, let's not use the word death, but
I'm saying just
yeah.
Recycle.
Huh.
your story has to die. Right, like your story has to die.
What do you mean?
The sense of self has to die.
Right.
You're stuck in the same story.
Yeah.
It's just abstract.
My self-definition has to die. That's what you mean. My self-definition, the story I tell about myself, my concept of self. Everyone has a certain concept. This is who I am. That story has to shed all of its layers. And I become like a little baby, like a little child. What's a little child? Doesn't have yet stories, right? A child doesn't, especially in the womb. In the womb. And there's like a new leda, a naya yemeladas, a new birth. So that's what Arizal speaks about, the Ibur Sheni. That's what he says. And the same is true in Avodas Hashem as well. V'hinei kol zeh haya avodas hashvatim. All this that we're talking about was the avodah of the shvatim. Ma'almim alumim. Shehein ba'olam habriya. Their souls generally originate in a world called the world of Bria. Their consciousness was a consciousness of the world of Bria. Levad mi Yosef shu me'atzilus k'dei lekamonim yirtzeh Hashem. This is all the brothers besides Yosef. Yosef's soul experienced the world of Atzilus, as we'll explain. This was part of the argument. Vehei merkava lebchinis malchus d'Atzilus. They were a merkava. Merkava means a chariot to a level which we call malchus of Atzilus. V'u'k'inyan yud beis boker shahoyu b'yam shel shloima shein yud beis b'chinis sheberosh habriya v'hayam oimed aleim u'b'chinis malchus d'Atzilus. In Tanakh, there's a story when Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash in Melachim Aleph. So he had Yud Beis Boker. He built 12. He sculptured 12 oxen. It says V'hayam oimed aleim, and the yam, the sea, what looked like a sea, stood on them. This was a big pool, Yam Shel Shlomo, the big pool that Shlomo Melech made. And the whole structure of the first Beis Hamikdash, Melachim Aleph, Perek Hey, Vav, those Prakim, Zayin, Ches. So there's the 12 oxen that he made, and the Hayam Oimed Aleim. Kabbalistically, this is defined, as we'll see a little later, more details, 12 dimensions in Olam Habriya, and the Yam that stands over them, the Hayam Oimed Aleim, on these 12 oxen, represents what's called Malchus of Atzilus. That's the Yam. and it's connected to the Yud Beis Shvatim, which parallel these 12. Ulazois ikir avaydosam v'halos mayin nukvin me'abirurim shebiriru bebri yitzir asiya yamagia ad hamalchus datzilus ulashama yanichlal b'bchinas mayin nukvin. So their main avodah was they worked with Olam Habriya and Yitzira and Asiya, lifting up, elevating the sparks of infinity that are everywhere, bringing it back to its source. What was the source? The Yam, which is Malchus already of the world of Atzilus. That's where all the sparks were absorbed through Mayin Nukvin. Mayin Nukvin, as we said, were the feminine waters, which represents the ascent, is Harusa de Lasata, the sublimation of the feminine, of the human being down here in the world, who is dealing with the consciousness of Bri Yitzirasi. That's why the dream says we are in a field. We're not in a house. We're in a field, an open field, a place of openness, a place of just uninhibited. Everything is open. It's a public, semi-public domain. That's where we are being ma'alum alum, and we're making from many one. That's the dream of Yosef about what his brothers are doing. All of them are doing it. Yosef is also doing it.
So the Sod is the 3 lower lamas?
Yeah. The dream continues. What happens? They finish binding their sheaves, so now they have bundles. Suddenly Yosef's bundle stands up. And all of their bundles now turn to his. This already they didn't like. First part of the dream, I'm good. Second part, no, this is good. Now, as somebody asked at the beginning of the shir, Avram asked, the whole Maimah till now was Achdus, and now they're bowing down to one. What happened? You just said that when you mavara the nitzitz, suddenly you bring the world back to Achdus, but suddenly Yosef Hatzadik's bundles away. Achdus till now, yeah? To Achdus until here was good, but now you're all bowing down to me. I'm superior. This is where the dream got a little sticky. Somebody told me that somebody once came to somebody and he said, let's make Achdus. Let's make unity. He said, yeah, but I'm Kegen Vemen. Against whom? There's no unity in a vacuum. There has to be an enemy. You got to gang up together. So all is sweet, all is wonderful. The world is really one. Baruch, Beis, Reish, Vav, Chav, it's all part of oneness. Achdus Hapshuta. But then Yosef adds a whole new chapter. Suddenly his aluma stands up. Their alumas don't stand up. Come aluma, Sivigam Nitzav, and they all bow down to this aluma. So the Balatanya says, Omnam Yadua, it's known, Shahamayin Nukvin, the feminine waters, Afal Pishekvar Nichel B'chinas Malchus, even though it already came up from Asiya Yitzir and Bria, and was absorbed in what we would call Malchus of Atzilus, which is much higher than Bria, Adayin Sarech Bidur Sheni. It still needs a second bidur, a second elevation, a second sublimation, Al Yedei Hamad, Hamayin Duchre, through the masculine waters. Meaning, in Isis of the Arizal would be V'hu Shenimshach. Here's a classic expression of Kabbalah of the Arizal, which he's going to explain. V'hu Shenimshach. I'm just going to say the translation. Mayin Duchrin Deza, which is an acronym. Mayin Duchrin Dezeir Anpin. Levarer Hamayin Nukvin de Nukva. V'zeu Inyan Yichud Zav Nukva. Just push it to get the word straight without explaining the concept. Every world is made up of 10 spheres, 10 characteristics. Each one has a light and a vessel. 10 spheres is the 10 building blocks of the world. The soul is made up of 10, right? Chachma, we learned many times. Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach. The Midas, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, you said, are called Zah, Ze'er Ampin, the small face. In contrast to another dimension called Arich Ampin, the long face, which is Keser, which is above Chachma. So Ze'er Ampin is Chachma through your side, and Malchus is under that, Malchus. When you speak about Atzilus, the Zah of Atzilus is Chesed, Gvura, Teferes, Netzach, on your side. And then there's Malchus of Atzilus, Yichud, Zah, V'nukva, Zun is Zah, V'nukva. Za is masculine, Nukva is feminine. The unity of the masculine and the feminine is called Yichud Zav and Nukva. Mayin Nukvin is the feminine waters, is when Malchus is aroused, like when the feminine triggers the relationship. Or Mayin Duchen is when the masculine triggers the relationship. And we know in every relationship it could be this way, or both together. Mayin Duchen means there's a flow that comes from the male. Mayin Nukvin means there's a flow, orgasmic flow that comes from the female. The physical words that Arizal often uses is a metaphor for the spiritual dynamic of the relationship between Hashem and the Jew, because generally, like the whole Shir Hashirim, is based on a mashal, that the male and female relationship is a metaphor for the relationship between Hashem and the Jewish people, the soul and the body, heaven and earth, the world and godliness, and so forth. So he's saying the Shvatim are from Bria. So their nitzutzes, they bring it all up to where? To the Yam, to Malchus of Atzilus. That's where the feminine waters experiences the arousal, and it brings the nitzutzes back to that. That's called Bidur Rishon, the first Bidur. The lowest Malchus, so that's it. Now you need a Bidur Sheni, a whole new Bidur. What's the second Bidur? It's already in Atzilus, but it's Malchus of Atzilus. Bidur Sheni is a whole new Bidur through the Zah, through the higher Midas of Atzilus, to be able to be Mavar the Nitzudas, even though they're already in Malchus, because the Shvatim brought them there. They brought it from a place of separation to a place of Achdus. But now it needs a whole new Birur, a Birur Sheni. A whole new Birur Sheni. V'ha'inyan. What's the pshat in this? What's missing? Ki afal pishin is bararu hanitzutzes. Even though the nitzutzes were nisbared already, they were elevated. We're talking about ma'almim alumim. What's ma'almim alumim? I hope you remember the whole Maimer, yeah? I didn't do a chazara today. Ki afal pishin is bararu hanitzutzes. Even though all the nitzutzes were already nisbared. What's nisbared? Nisbared means they were clarified, barur. They were accentuated. They were identified. They were sublimated. No small feat. You revolutionized the landscape of planet Earth. You revealed the oneness. And all the sparks, which means the whole world, because the whole world is sparks, the whole world is DNA, the whole world is divine particles. That is the world. The tzutzis is not some strange spark flying around. Netzutzis is essentially the ultimate reality of the Nivra. It all was realigned in a state of bittul, oneness, with a lekos kanal. Im kol zeh, you need a second birur. The ultimate unification with their own, with godliness, they're still not there yet. They're not capable of that. The way all the netzutzes were pre-Shviras Hakem, the whole Maimer began with the process of Shviras Hakem, the breaking, the shattering of the vessels. The way these sparks were pre-Shviras Hakem, where every spark was Mamish Alakusa, was the 10 spheres of Olam Atoyu, before the Kalim shattered and the Netzutzes got scattered within the entire universe, and now you're doing Birur HaNetzutzes. It's not there yet. Ad sheyumshech aleim gilu shem mad atzilus. Until they can experience the revelation of the name of Hashem known as Ma, 45, when Yud and Hey and Vav and Hey are written out fully. Yud Vav Daled Hey Aleph Vav Aleph Vav Hey Aleph Yud Hey Vav Hey completely. You have Mem Hey 45. So when Shem Ma Vatzilus is revealed on them, and what happens? Vayideza Yizbareru Birur Sheni. Then the Netzutzes go through a new transformation. V'hu ha'ikir. And that's even more fundamental, more ikir than the first Birur of the Shvatim. Why? Yan b'chachma dafke is bariru. Because the real Birur happens through chachma. Shehu b'chines hamad. That's the masculine waters, Mayan Duchrin. Ki ha-birur harishon hayarak sh'yeh behem b'chines bittul hayesh. The first Birur only created the bittul of the yesh. They're not a yesh anymore. V'zeh, now this is v'zeh rochik adayin me'lekus ma'id.
So if we come back to the mashal we had with Baruch, we could say that the letters which were separate, Beis, the Reish, they all had their own yeshus. They're now back aligned.
Yeah.
It spells Baruch.
No yesh anymore.
But they don't really recognize each other the same way. They're not. They don't have that the chachma that puts them together, even though they're aligned. They're no more yeshus. The beis is next to the reish, next to the vav, etc. But they're still lacking what they were when they were baruch in the first.
It's not, it's yeah. He says it's still v'zeirachik adayin melakus ma'oid. Bittul hayesh there is, but it's still very distant from melakus. The ihu v'garmoyi chad, because he and his midas, this expression of Zohar in Tikkuni Zohar, he and his midas garmoyi are the word garments, his levushim, his kalim. In the English, the word garments is associated comes from this garmoyi. Garmoyi is he and his instruments, his kalim, his levushim, his spheres are one. Shem b'bchinas bittul amiti. They are in a state of real bittul. Ella al yedei shenimshach ben b'chinas mayin duchra. Only when you have the revelation of the masculine waters. Shua oras shem malavareram. This is the light of Ma'av Atzilus, to be mevarer, the nitzutzes, which are in Malchus. Malchus is Shem Ban, but you want Shem Ma. Ban is begematria behema, Ma is begematria Adam. Behema is 52, Adam is 45. Oz nichel b'bittul amiti belakus. Now the nitzutzes can be absorbed in the real bittul and elikus. Ukamashal. I'm just saying this mashal is not exact. The mashal is as hard as the nimshal. Ukamashal ba'adam shemevarer birurim. Take an example from a person who's involved in birurim. What's the classic birurim? Ayidei she'oichel v'shoyse. Person eats and drinks. V'achakach mispalel ba'ava v'yira ayidei koyach zeh she'oichel v'shasa. The energy, the fuel from eating and drinking is now used in davening and connecting to Hashem with love and awe. The entire love and awe is being fueled literally by the nutrients that I just absorbed from the food. This is a classic case of birurim. The body does the birur on a physical level. The soul does the birur on a spiritual level. The moment I absorb food, the first thing the body starts doing immediately, one of the greatest miracles of biology, is birurim, which we call the whole digestion process. What is digestion process? The body right away identifies. This is good for me. This is not good for me. This is long-term fat. This is short-term energy. This is going to the blood. This is going to the Beis HaKisei. This is going into the fat reserve, right? Into Paro's oitzer for the 7 years of famine that are coming, etc. The body does that. Takes a few hours, and not a pashta thing. Breaks everything down. Birurim. This is redeemable. This is not redeemable. This is trash, and this is gewaldik, and everything in between. That's what the body does. In fact, much of our day, that's what we're busy doing unconsciously. While we're busy, sleeping and sitting on the couch and reading or doing other things, the body doesn't stop doing its birurim. But then there's the avodas habirurim on a spiritual level. When I take this energy, it's all about energy. Food gives you energy. What do I do with this energy? So he says, the Jew davens ba'ava v'yira. So what happens? Shenimtza nichlelu achiyus shel ha'macholim v'hamashkim shenaflu b'shviris hakelim b'bchinas ha'ava v'yira shela. The entire life force, every food has life. Every food has energy. Every food is made up of the unique molecular atomic structure which gives it its unique dimensions. Ultimately, that is a nitzutz. Those are nitzutzes. So the life of all the food or all the beverages that fell down through shviras hakelim, it all went through a process of shviras hakelim. That's why it just emerges as a physical piece of steak, or a physical cucumber, or a physical piece of chicken, or whatever it is. Whatever that food is, it's a separate food. That's it. It can even entice you to become extremely indulgent and detach yourself from your purpose and even from your basic health. But you now did a bitter. What was the bitter? You took the chiyus of the machalim and the mashkim, which went through a process of shviras hakelim. And what happened to this chiyus? It became part of b'chinas ha'ava v'yira shela. Now it's part of my love life. It's part of my awe. Because what's fueling my love? What's fueling my passion? You need energy for that. So now you took the nitzutz, and where did you bring? You brought back the nitzutz. The nitzutz is now part of a process of ava and yira. V'im kol zeh. V'im kol zeh, emes, all true. Hu adayin rochik mimulhus echad ha'emes. It's still distant from the essence of the oneness of truthfulness. Mimulhus, from the essence of echad, the one that's emes true. Elok shayidei halos mayin nukvin da'ava v'yirah shaloi. Nimshachuloi dechilu rechimu milmayla me'es Hashem. There's a bitter sheni. If after he brings up the feminine waters, his own love and his own law, or now there's a hamshacha from the chilu rechimu. The chilu is awe and rechimu is love. Milmayla from above. Me'es Hashem from Hashem. Shetipel love ema. There will be on him an awe that comes from Hashem. Oz yuchlulu ba'ava v'yirah zushan hamshachim milmayla mebchinas alakus mamash. Now the netzutzas of the food could be absorbed in the love and the awe that came from Hashem, not that came from me, that came from Elikus Mamish. Val derech zehu bidur sheni the Mayan Duchrin. This is an example of the bidur sheni, the second bidur. So he gave an example from the avoid of a person. I could do all the birurim, but it's still, there's a bittul hayesh, my love, my awe, but it's still rachik. The nitzitz is still rachik me'elikus ma'oid. It's far from echad emes until I experience a love and awe that comes from above, from elikus. That's like from the ma'av atzilus, higher than malchus, from the male waters that completely unite the nitzitz with elikus. Va'afilu Rabbi Akiva sheyotza nishmasei be'echad. Even Rabbi Akiva, the Gemara says in Masechta Brachas, that Yatza Nishmasoi Be'echad, his soul went out. When he said the word Echad, the Gemara says at the end of Masechta Brachas, that Rabbi Akiva was caught by the Romans. It was the time of Krishma, Samachalaf Amid Beis, and they took him out to be murdered. And the Gemara describes graphically how they tortured Rabbi Akiva, Masrekas Shel Barzel, and Rabbi Akiva was saying Shema. And the students asked him, how could you say Shema now, Atkan? And he said famously, Kol Yomai, my entire life, every day when I said Shema, I asked myself, and I was pained by it, when will I already be able to fulfill V'avdas Hashem Elokecha b'chol avovcha b'chol nafshecha v'achshav, and now that I have the opportunity, you just want me to dismiss the opportunity. And Rabbi Akiva was saying Shema, was in the morning. And the Gemara says, when he came to the word Echad, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, Yatza Nishmasoi Be'echad. His soul emerged, his soul went out of him, he expired, he passed away, his soul went back to heaven by the Echad. This is the deepest, this is, for good reason, the deepest level of Achdus. Yatza Nishmasoi Be'echad, the deepest level of Achdus. Says, Afil Rabbi Akiva sheyatza nishmasei be'echad. Im kol zeh harei mesiris nefesh shel hanivra rochek adayin melikus. The mesiris nefesh, the surrendering of a soul, the sacrifice of a soul of a nivra, of a created being, rochek adayin melikus, is still distant from godliness. A bittul there is, bittul hayesh there is, mesiris nefesh there is. But it's rachik from el echad ha'emes elikus. Elasheb nimshich alav ha'adam epchinas echad ha'emes. Until, and that's what happened by Rabbi Akiva, a light was communicated to him from the oneness of truth. Va'az nichlo mesiris nefesh alav epchinas echad mamash. That's the pshat in the Gemara. Yatza nishmasei be'echad. There was an echad that was communicated from above, and his mesiris nefesh became absorbed in the real echad mamash, which the Nivra on his own, even when the greatest moments of Mesiris Nefesh can't achieve.
Which took his ha'aloha, his avodah,
To Biru Sheni. To Biru Sheni.
Is that called Siyat?
Huh?
Is that called Siyat?
Yeah, but it's a different Inyan. V'zeu Inyan l'mehevei echad be'echad. In Zohar there's an expression, we say it in the Kegavna, Erev Shabbos. Those who say Kegavna, Nusach Svard, or those who say the Zohar. So there's an expression from the Zohar that's Parshas Vayakel. Kegavna de'inun misyachadin. You remember what I'm talking about? The Aramaic, this is about Memadlikin and this is Kegavna. So there's those who know the famous Razat Shabbos. So the Kegavna, We say it right when Shabbos comes in, yeah. So the lashon over there is lemeheve echad be'echad. One should be one with one. Echad lemeheve echad be'echad. What's pshat? So it starts off kegavna dinim mesachad and laela ufachi sechadas lasata berazad echad lemeheve men laela chad lakavel chad. The whole kegavna is about that the unity above is also reflected below. Until lemeve echad be'echad. What's that lemeve echad be'echad? So the Baal Tanya teaches shebchinis echad the yichud tata bittul ayesh nichlal biyichud elah bittul amiti. There's the echad that the person can accomplish, which is called yichud tata, the lower level of unity. But that's not the ultimate echad. As he puts it, it's rochek adayin from echad emes. Lemeve echad be'echad, that my echad, your echad, our echad, more appropriate, should be able to be unified with the ultimate echad. The bittul hayesh with bittul amiti, or yichud tata with yichud ilah. The yichud tata is a lower level of unity, yichud ilah is a higher level of unity. Upchinis mad za nimshich levarer aman de nukve zel madreges Yosef HaTzadik. And these masculine waters which goes out to elevate the feminine waters of Malchus, this is Yosef. If you remember the beginning of the Maimon, he brought the pasuk that there's Eden and there's the river that goes out of Eden and it irrigates the garden, and from there it splits up into four, which is the process of Shviras HaKelim. Yosef is the river that goes out of Eden to irrigate the garden of Malchus Datzilis, which you remember is the yam that stood over the 12 oxen of Shloimeh. He's the river. Sha'aganu b'chinas Malchus. V'at sham nimshach b'chinas Nahara Nevi'im Ein Sof Baruch Hu. And the river that flows from Ein Sof goes till Malchus of Atzilus. After that, there's a break. There's a split. After that, there's a period. From the beginning of Bria. V'hu b'chinas ha'oras ha'kav v'chut. This is known as the shine, the flow of the kav and the chut, the line and the thread of Ein Sof. After the Tzimtzum, the Arizal says, after the Ein Sof, we learned in V'yadaita, after the Ein Sof concealed himself, and there's an empty space, there's a kav and a chut that comes from the Ein Sof into the world. That flows, that's the river that flows till the Gan. V'sham istayim, it ends over there in a revealed way. V'eino nimshach b'biyah, l'kachem alma de prudu misham yipare. That's why from Bria starts the worlds of separation. Misham yipare, the river splits. Elisha Yosef hu tzadik shemekasher mamshech ha'aras oirin soif b'bri yitzirasiya. Yosef is the one who could bring the Ein Sof even into Bri Yitzirasiya. V'hainu adei sha'nevrayim nechlalim b'chinas man b'malchus datzilis. For this he needs his brothers. His brothers bring up the birurim till Malchus of Atzilus, till the garden. V'Yosef mamshech ha'aras oirin soif baruch hu b'malchus levarer es haman birur sheni. They do birur rishon. Yosef does birur sheni. Sheyiyu nechlalim be'elakusoi mamish kanal. The netzutza should be absorbed mamish in elakus. Va'arezu ibchinas ha'aras hakav v'chud da'orein soif v'zeh ibchinas v'nar yotzo lahashkas esagan v'nimtza madreges ha'birur de Yosef u'lamayla me'abirur shel hashvatim. The birur of Yosef is in a completely different realm than the avodas habirurim of the shvatim. Shebirur shel hashvatim, the avodas habirurim, the avodah of the shvatim hu shemaylim mayin nukvin b'malchus datzilis v'adayin loy nepach lelakus mamash. They'll bring up everything to Malchus, but it does not become mamish godliness. And the word is mamish. Ache Yosef, until Yosef mamshich, he brings forth Hamad, the Mayan Duchrin, Shu Ha'aras Oirein Soif, Shem Alubish B'chachma, V'ash Shazel V'nor Yotzim Eyeden, U'B'chachma is Beriru Birur Beis. And through this you can have the second birur. V'azai nichlel haman be'elakus mamish she'iskalus yichud tata b'yichud elah. Then there could be the lower unity which is absorbed in the higher unity. V'hainu ma'shekosov. This is what it says. V'hinei anachnu ma'almim alumim b'toich hasada. We're all binding sheaves in the field. Everyone. Shehu habirurim mibri yitzirasiyah. This is the avodas habirurim of the world of Bri Yitzirasiyah lahaloisun b'pchinas man b'malchus kanal. To bring them up through feminine waters and malchus. That's everybody. Yosef atzmai birur zaharish and gamke. Yosef is also doing the first one. They're all doing it together. After sharshem m'shem ma that Atzilus shel b'chinas hamad. Even though he comes from Atzilus, afal pikein me'achash and eslabish lamata beguf. Anyone who comes into a body, he had to work together with his brothers. Everyone is identical in the first birur. That's where they're working in perfect unison. Once this is finished, suddenly Yosef's aluma rises, it stands up. In his aluma, there's suddenly a whole new mila, a whole new elevation. Why? Because of his source in Atzilus. Which is why he can do the second birur to elevate that which has already have been elevated through the Shvatim into Malchus. The other brothers don't have the capacity to do the second birur. Why? Because their souls are from Bria. Shalamata mata me'atzilus. It's lower than Atzilus. They can achieve Yichud Tato, not Yichud Elah. Bittul Hayesh, not Bittul Amiti. The Echad of man, but not the ultimate Echad. The mysterious nefesh of the human, but not the ultimate Echad. So Yosef says at this point, when you recognize that my aluma was elevated to a higher place, Atzilus, so now your aluma is bowed down to my aluma. What's pshat? B'pchin is bittul mamish. The aluma is now have to go through a whole new bittul. And in many ways, this bittul is much harder than the first bittul. Because the first bittul, you were escaping yeshus. And now you're escaping your version of bittul. To escape yeshus is very geschmack. Who doesn't? If you have a psashtikal soul, you want to escape yeshus. But to run away from your version of bittul, zoisloi. Das nicht. I'm already one. I'm in a state of Mesiris Nefesh. Because without Yosef's mad, their nitzutzes can never be absorbed in a lakus mamish. Then it can be nichel and alakus v'zel v'tishtachavena. They have to bow down. In other words, experience a new bittul. V'azu shenichlu b'alakus kanal. And then they can be absorbed in alakus.
It sounds, until this last two lines, I was very pessimistic. It says, well, let me explain. Because we can try to do the work of the Shvatim, but we have no power to do Yosef's work. So we're sort of stuck. Very, very nice. We can do this work. But what's he telling me this all from? Guess what? As much as you did, you still need Yosef. But once he says that the
Avada.
The Tishtachavena is
Avada.
new avoda.
Yeah, Avada.
To trigger the
Avada.
So there is something we can do.
Avada. Avada. That's the next avoda. That's the next step.
How did bring this home?
Very slowly.
In a recording.
We'll continue tomorrow. Ibur. Michem a bissel Ibur. Nicht 9 months, ein Tag. I understood.
I didn't mean to sound facetious. I'm saying
I got it.
so what's he telling me?
I got it. Of course, always.
The Tishtachavena is the avoda.
Vada. Avada. This is the resistance. The resistance is a very deep resistance.
Still dealing with it.
Of course we're dealing with it every day.
Please pass this far this way.
How many layers in Bittul? Ah.